Welcome to a new episode of the eMobility Marketing Podcast. Today I'm here with our design team at Nexxt Industry, Valentina, Franzi and Merel van Buren. And we'll talk about the specifics of designing for eMobility companies. You'll also learn a bit more about the future of design, the role of AI in the work that design teams are doing today. So welcome back to this new episode. And Valentina and Merel, I'm looking forward to some introductions from your end.
Yep. So, hi guys, I'm very excited to be here. I'm gonna introduce myself. My name is Valentina. I'm a graphic designer and I'm from Italy. I've been working for Nexxt since July, so it's been like 6-7 months right now. I'm generally speaking, I have a 6-year work experience as a graphic design. In my past career, I did a lot of different jobs, and I work with very different realities like agencies and companies as an employee. And for 2 years, I was, before meeting Nexxt, I was freelancing for a lot of different clients. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thanks, Valentina. How about you, Merel?
Hi, well, as you know, I'm Merel. I'm from the Netherlands, but I'm currently also living in Italy, quite near Valentina, actually. And I've been working for Nexxt Industry for about 2.5 years at this point. But I already worked in the industry, like in the graphic design industry, for about 4 or 5 years. And I mostly worked for branding agencies and marketing agencies that were very focused towards branding. So like logos, catalogs, books, posters, etc. And I also did some freelancing, which I also did a lot of logos and posters and those type of things, a lot of visual identities. But before I studied design, I also studied communication science with a specialization in cultural differences. So it's kind of a cool combination to combine this graphic design with the fact that we are now communicating in this global environment with a lot of different cultures, to apply it also to design. That would be me.
So how do you as Nexxt Industries design team approach graphic design, and what kind of types of projects do you primarily work on?
Okay, I can answer to this one. We make both digital and physical output. Let's say that we mainly make digital output like social media posts, websites, landing pages. We do also ebooks, presentations, animation and videos, also some newsletters. But we also take care of branding and design or redesign brand identities with all the related materials. So, which usually, involves also like printed work, like flyers, business cards, posters, and so on. Many of our clients also attend like events, like exhibitions or fairs, for example. And so they need a whole range of materials for physical to digital work to be prepared for that event. And we can, of course, provide everything. Our design approach, let's say that combines both the strategic and creative thinking to ensure that the client needs is reached. So not only aesthetic. Overall, we begin like trying to understand, of course, the client's goals and the needs of them. We start dividing the task with the team meetings. Those meetings are basically between our member of the team, so internally in Nexxt Industry, involving also copywriters, marketing managers, graphic designers, of course, performance marketeers, and of course also the team of the client, because it's also important to have a direct contact with the client. So in these meetings, we of course are for a brief, debrief, and to adjust and edit like final feedback until we deliver the final output.
Okay.
Yeah, just to add to what you said about the fact that usually we have always a person in contact with the clients, like that we like reach out to and always align with, is the same like internally. Like as you said, like we work together with all the team members, usually with marketeers, with rights and everything. But there's always usually one of us, like the head designer, to say, just so that will be the person that is responsible for like the end product. It's usually easy, so then we are sure that one person always follows, that it's always high quality and we deliver what we should, and keeps track of the project. Because if it's like a small project, usually like a social media post, you make 1 or 2 versions. Internally, we do a round of like, what do you think? We adjust it and then usually send one to the client. So it's easier to always send one. So there's no confusion and not too much like a waste of time usually by giving a client many options. But if it's a larger project, usually we also, of course, create like storyboards or concept boards with our intentions, which we communicate internally but also externally before designing. Because otherwise, if you start a huge project and you already start making stuff, but you're not even sure if this is what like your client or what like the marketeers think we need. So usually with larger projects, we don't start designing immediately. We create like a concept board to keep on track.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, let's say that the main things we keep in mind is that we need to use the client's visual language properly and to ensure like their brand consistency. So that's why we also ask them to provide us with their brand book, for example, or with other materials that they might have. I mean, design materials, of course, like logos, color palette, or shootings that they did maybe in the past, to make sure that, I mean, all that we do across all the media, their brand identity remain consistent.
Oh.
So I will summarize that our main pillars in our process are for sure quality, readability, and also clarity.
The client has a corporate identity and you're designing marketing materials for this client and you feel like, hey, there can be made some changes to further improve their identity. Is that something you would work on and you would advise on?
Yeah, I mean, we can. That's why I was, as I said before. I mean, it's always important to have like a direct contact with the client, so you can also ask them if you can make like some changes, or if you can like try to make something different from what they already do.
Yeah,
I guess
Merel, what do you
like
think?
there's some creative freedom that you would have, right? So yeah.
Yeah, but not, I mean, yes, but not that much. I mean, it's important to ensure, I mean, as far as it's consistent, it's okay to try something different.
Exactly.
But I mean, consistency, it's the most important thing, in my opinion.
Like we usually understand the scope of the project. So if somebody asks you to do social media, I don't think we suddenly be like, oh, maybe we should adjust the logo. Like maybe it's too far apart. But if I think we usually also ask, or if we see like real improvements, it's still part of improving the quality. Like we deliver quality. So if we think this font or this color or maybe the logo also, but if something could really improve them, we usually suggest it. And then maybe it could mean that in the end we also do it. It's not like something we pressure onto them, be like, no, this has to be different. Usually suggestions, because it helps the client improve, of course, and it helps our strategies, our content also be better. So yeah, I mean, we try to communicate that if possible. But yeah, as Valentina said,
cool.
not crazy stuff, because it has to be consistent. You can't just be like, okay, we redesigned your identity.
Yes, no, of course.
So, yeah.
So, Valentina, what would you say is the primary role of visual communication and graphic design in the e-mobility industry? Like, why does it matter?
Well, I would say that one of the main reasons why visual communication is important in this industry is that complex technological concepts being to be like communicated in an easy and very clean and understandable way, making this kind of innovations more accessible to customers and to everyone, basically, to ensure that the customer experience is as easy as clean as possible, I would say, because clear and compelling visuals can make a brand to be easily recognizable and to ensure trust in the client, which is essentially what is needed in a very growing and competitive industry like this. Because I mean, in the e-mobility sector, every day new brands pop up in a very fast growing way, and so the industry it's very crowded right now, I would say. So it's important to stand out and communicate clearly, and also to make the difference with your brand identity.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, going in something more technical, for example, infographics and data visualization can help simplify the explanation of some technical features and to underline some, I don't know, sustainability benefits, for example, that a company might have. So engaging visuals also, I mean, they help break down barriers for potential customers that are maybe unfamiliar with electric vehicles. So they could have been customers like one day, maybe if they see that the product is easy and is accessible also for them that are not like in the industry.
Okay. And would you guys say that as a designer in this industry, do you need to design differently for e-mobility companies, or are these principles just extensions of good design tailored to a new industry?
Like Valentina and me spoke about it a while ago, that we were like, is this actually different than, because
Yeah.
of course it's an emerging industry, and it's even for designers, like in the last maybe 5 years, it's something that has been like a thing, like, oh wait, this is a new type of industry, because of course you have fashion, you have food, you have a lot of industries already. This is quite, of course, it's a new industry. So in the beginning, we were like, no, it's the same. But it's the process and the principles are still the same, because you don't necessarily need to design differently. Like, you don't necessarily need to, but you need to adapt the principles that we know in a different way, because it's still like there's unique like needs and values and a different audience also. As Valentina said, the audience is unfamiliar with this industry, and also people generally, we want something to be comfortable and easy to use. So if something's difficult, we tend to just stay with, for instance, like with EVs, with petrol cars, like we don't want to switch. So the audience is also different. So like at the end of the day, you don't need to design differently, but you really need to understand which principles become more important or which should be prioritized.
Like, what would you say that are the unique challenges of designing for e-mobility brands? Like, what's so special about it?
I think one of the main ones is, as I mentioned before, like we need a type of balance between educating people on this new industry, but you're also promoting your services or your product. So we really need to find this balance, because you don't want to become like a university. Like, you don't want to be boring. You don't want to give people too much information, but how are you able to sell to an audience that has no context about the industry? So it's very important to create an easy, like digestible context around what you're selling. And as Valentina also mentioned, you need to stand out and you need to build some sort of trust, because it's a fast-paced industry, and you need to create some sort of trust because you're selling new stuff, new services, new type of technology. So people need to trust you and understand the technicalities. But the main things we tend to keep in mind designing for e-mobility is like, it has to be of quality, but it has to be visible, recognizable, readable. Like, you need to be able to read something on a sign or on a charger. Clarity and difference, you have to be different, like different from the rest, so differentiation. They're all quite similar, but in the end, like visibility is different than readability. Clarity is different than, so it's something we tend to keep in mind, because like you have so many new companies on the market that have their like unique selling point, they have the USPs, but they might be selling very similar services. As like for a consumer, it seems very similar. So you really need to have like some sort of distinctive language and make yourself visually stand out from the rest. And then probably people will understand, oh, what is different about you, because you attracted them. Like for instance, with CPOs, you have chargers on the street. Our challenge is to understand, for instance, let's say color. We wanted to stand out because you might drive by super fast and you need to see us from a distance. But if I'm going to put a neon pink or green, super flashy color in front of your door because it's a public space, public charger, you're going to disrupt and annoy people in the community, maybe, actually. So we can't do. But dark green, like you don't see it. Like, it's very difficult to spot. And if you think about, let's say, like a big city, urban environments are already crowded with a lot of signs, with a lot of commercials and stuff. How is somebody going to see your charger somewhere? Like, it's a challenge. Like, for instance, Allego, one of our clients, they have green chargers, but they did it in a very smart way. They're very bright, but not in an annoying, like super, like, wow, wait, but you recognize them. And they have their big icons, their big arrow. You see a sign and it's visible, but it doesn't disrupt, like, literally communities. So in that way, at least you tackle this thing of like recognizability and colors, but it's something we think of when it comes to the physical world. When you think, for instance, of like MSPs, for instance, that have their service on an app, you're not in the physical world, you're in a digital world. And there, as we said before, it has to be a hassle-free experience. If I'm going to charge for the first time or pay for my charging for the first time, I need it to be clear. I don't want to be confused in this interface. So usually they choose interfaces that are minimal and easy to navigate through. But you have to also differentiate yourself from the app that is maybe below Apple Store, and you don't want somebody to suddenly like download your competitor. So it's something we also think about, like how can we make like flawless like usability and easy transition, but you need to also be different from the rest of the app. So it's something like, it's always a balance kind of things.
I wanted to add that, I mean, it's very important to keep in mind where actually your audience interacts with your brand.
Yeah.
So if it's the physical or digital worlds, or for example, if your audience is a B2B or B2C company, there is a huge difference. And I mean, it's very important to consider those things, because For example, things that might work in the physical world might not be as useful and as powerful in the digital world, for example. If you take into consideration logos, for example, logos should always be easily scalable, to be applicated and to appear like in diverse settings, for example, posters or I don't know, stickers, social media, of course, websites, also vehicles. If your brand is like an EV car, or must remain clear and readable in any surfaces. The same kind of typography should be readable and scalable, not too expressive, not too crazy. Otherwise, it compromises readability and might also create some issues with to be like of course readable and recognizable. So we always try to find the balance between readable typefaces with a unique character, but also something that actually cannot, let's say, compromise clarity. But usually our solution, of course, is to focus on creating a visual language that is unique as a whole. I was thinking about one of our clients, which is in charge. They are mainly like a platform that gives you information about charging points. And it's also a platform that rewards the users for completing everyday activities like shopping or like providing reviews in the app, allowing them to earn credits that can be used for EV charging and other mobility services. One of the main goals for that would be to simplify interactions between vehicles and digital network also and people by designing visual interfaces that make real-time data navigation and notifications very easy to understand. So this is because when you drive an electric vehicles, drivers need constant up-to-date information. So it's very important to create an easy solution that transforms how drivers can actually interact with their vehicles and with the connected infrastructure. So yeah, an interface should simply be as easy to use, but still like recognizable as in charge.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And would you if you look at the difference between B2B and B2C communications and design, how do you apply those differences? Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
If you don't mind, I can do this one.
Yes.
Of course,
because I think as we both already actually mentioned, the fact that we really have to consider which is our client, which is their audience. Usually three things, I think three topics mainly. I think we think about the tone, what type of tone are we using, in combination, of course, with our copywriters, but there's also tone in the way you design. For B2B, of course, more in a more professional way and more detailed. So you're going to go more into the technicalities of everything and you're trying to build trust about this knowledge that you have. But then when we talk about the tone that we use and the things we show for B2C, we emphasize more on emotional connection and simplicity because, yeah, again, it's very technical and we want them to feel, usually as an individual, you don't study the whole technicalities of a brand. You just want to have an emotional connection or emphasize with the brand. Then when it comes to the visual style of it, usually for B2B, it sounds a bit super logic and a bit maybe a quick generalization, but it is usually a bit more subdued. The colors are a bit less vibrant and everything is a bit more structured. And for B2C, it can be more vibrant. It has to be more approachable design. So it sometimes tends to be more human in a way. And you take away a bit of muted type of coloring. And yeah, of course, in B2B, you focus on ROI or efficiency and they care about those type of things. But as a consumer, as a B2C, you think more about your lifestyle. What is my personal benefit of it? So to summarize a bit, for B2B, it's more professional. It's more focused on infographics, on data. Yeah, very focused on information through which you can then create this type of trust and this reliability and this technical expertise, which usually means cleaner layouts, muted colors. And branding remains important always, but it's more secondary to the technical content. Then we see to create a little summary is storytelling. We think more about the story, the emotional connection of what is their lifestyle, how am I connected to this? We communicate and we show visuals that are more direct, easy to digest, and then less technical because we think about ourselves. So what is the benefit to this individual? So usually there's more images that you can identify with. There's more playfulness, maybe a bit more brighter, colorful stuff. It's very maybe generalized, but it has to be more engaging. And then education is part of it, but secondary. And And so, yeah, I think that would be, I don't know if you have anything else, Valentina, to add, but I think this might be what we do.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to ask about colors, if you don't mind.
I wanted to ask the same question, actually.
Okay.
You mentioned color. Like, what's the role of color in designing, especially for e-mobility? Like, does it influence the communication?
Yes. I mean, let's say that generally speaking, there are connections between color and psychology in a person, and you can make use of this to convey certain messages and also to draw attention, of course, on something. For example, in the e-mobility industry, we can consider green and blue as the two main colors that has been used in the past years. Green conveys the idea, of course, of sustainability to something that is eco-friendly, and it also conveys trust, such as blue. Blue convey trust, and especially if you use like a very dark tone of blue, seen like a very authority brand, for example. But at the same time, the problem with these two colors is that they have been like overused in this industry, especially like many brands have been greenwashing, I would say, their practices by ensuring green to make their customer believe they are sustainable and that they care about the environment, which is not like always true. And it's not that your brand is green that it means that you are sustainable. I mean, nowadays almost every brand has to take into consideration to be sustainable, not necessarily just with their brand identity, I would say. So these type of things we need to take in consideration when choosing colors for mobility.
Okay.
Another color that it can be used largely, it's red, for example. It has been used a lot in interfaces or in traffic signs to draw attention to something, or maybe it underlines something that is not working properly or something that might, or it is dangerous. So it's important to understand in which environment and industry your brand will be before you decide which color to pick. In the past few years, also a lot of neutral colors has been introduced, like black and white, for example, to convey clarity and cleanliness, especially following the minimalistic trend started by Apple, which I'm very fan of, by the way. But if you use like network colors, this would be a more difficult brand to be recognized, for example, because you are not like flashy, you are not bright. And and one of the main new trends that has been using is to use, of course, bright and neon colors, as also Merel mentioned before, to convey the idea of innovation and being kind of futuristic in a way. Usually, if you use one of these colors, I would recommend to go with a clean interface in order to be able to use these bright colors, not to create like a messy design or a messy environment, and to remain clean. I would say overall we consider where our design output will be, as I mentioned before choosing a color, because it's important to know, for example, a charger cannot be too hidden but not too flashy either. And for example, an application, it's better if it has like a very distinct color that can help actually people quickly distinguish it in the amount of apps that you can have on your phone. So it really depends.
You mentioned like a trend in designing for e-mobility. Merel, what would you say are the current trends in design for e-mobility companies?
I mean, especially about the colors that Valentina spoke about, like just to add to what she said, like one of course is to be like futuristic and neon stuff. But the thing is, like nowadays there's so much, like we know there's so much new technology that it's also something we have to keep in mind. Like in eMobility especially, everything is quite new, futuristic type of stuff. We cannot make everything look like that. So even though it's a trend, usually internally we like, okay, yes, it has to have that feel, but we cannot follow like the main trend with these neon colors and everything. It's something we really try to balance, because all of our clients right now are like, they're preparing us for like future new possibilities with driving and all of that. So it's something that is a trend, especially like, for instance, with bold typography and geometric shapes to show that you have your cutting edge technology and that you're very precise. So it's a trend, of course, we see. So like, all those movies about space, that's where it's coming from. A lot of those space movies have all these neon colors because it makes us think of the future. One of the main trends, naturally. Then, as she mentioned, with the green blue color, like sustainability design. It's like we've called it that just for the ease of it. It's easier to understand. But there's a lot of companies now, of course, with earthy colors, eco, green, organic shapes. To like organic shapes usually with like technology might not make them think like it's something precise, but for B2C it helps because you feel like you can trust them. It's something more human. So organic shapes are usually use their natural images of like the clean forest, because in the future maybe we reach that point.
Yeah.
A lot of infographics and like, for instance, about carbon saving or something like those type of infographics are usually used in the sustainability design because it's a very data oriented like field, let's say, and to combine data about the environment, usually they use, of course, a lot of earthy colors also to naturally convey if they are sustainable, that they are sustainable. So, of course, it's a very obvious trend that we've been seeing for a long time already.
Right.
It's still relevant. Well, animation design, like you see a lot of 3D, which again makes complex things engaging and accessible for people,
Yeah.
or B2B, all of it. So yeah, a lot of videos, animations, 3D data visualization, but also like 3D models or animated guides where you can have an immersive experience going into something. Like it becomes very interactive and more maybe memorable, which is very attractive for potential consumers, but also clients.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah,
anything to add on that, like Valentina? Is there any trends that you're seeing on top of this?
Yes, I mean, I will add maybe the UX UI design, which is, I mean, it's not a trend, but we can see that now in this field, they are like more and more clean and intuitive design and layout for example, for websites or for application. The design tend to be like more minimalistic, I would say, and the user friendly, as we also said before, to make, of course, the product more accessible to people. So interfaces have this like high contrast readability, sometimes also soft gradients, for example. So it's not something that it's too messy, I would say. So the focus really lies on simplicity and functionality. So making the new technology accessible and like easy to use for all type of users. And I mean, of course, I would mention also the AI.
Exactly.
Which is like, I mean, it's an upcoming trend almost for everything. And of course, also for graphic design. And for us designers, it has become a sensitive topic right now because, I mean, someone really believes that the work of a graphic designer is in danger because of the AI. No, I don't really agree with that because I think it's interesting to use this as a new tool, which helps you, like professionals, by streamlining the flows and automating like repetitive tasks and make the process faster. So we in Nexxt Industry, we use AI in this sense, like as a support, not as a substitute for creative work, which in my opinion, I mean, cannot be replaced yet. So I don't know, Merel, if you agree with me, but I mean, I've been using AI now, for example, in the eMobility industry, for example, to edit some photos, to fix what you need in a faster way, but not to replace like our creativity thinking, I would say.
Like I use it in the same way right now because I feel like our jobs, I consider it quite human because we have to create something out of no, like we have to walk around the neighborhood to be inspired. We have to do stuff for our job to make something new. I also, of course, I like my job. I don't want to lose it. But like part I don't like about AI is that you can really say like make logo and it makes it, or make social campaign and it makes it. I think I like it for doing exactly repetitive things, or it can make our job faster. Like with AI, for instance, there's a new update on Illustrator coming soon where you have a layout and you can ask it to make different formats. That I would like.
Yeah.
It makes you lazy, of course. It might not be a bit fussy. You've designed your thing already for like a square and then ask it to make it for stories. In that sense, we will be using it because it's just faster and
exactly. It helps you in a way. Sometimes it can help you.
Exactly. In that way, I would also use it.
I can see for these kind of sort of boring tasks that it would be very helpful that you can create all the formats that you need, but you did the design work before. And I can also see in the future that you might feed AI with your identity and it could create like a draft or something for a social media post that a designer could then sort of finalize, or it could give you some
Yeah,
ideas.
probably.
If you currently look, we've done a lot of testing also in our team with AI, and like the design parts, I think at the moment is not that good yet. Like there are different tools, of course, but
Yeah,
if you ask it to design an image for a social media post, it would be really like not really aligned with your identity and the quality that you would look for. But I can see if this develops further in the coming years that might become a very proper option. But still, you would need to design the identity, and like, yeah, that's always a human thing to do, right? It's otherwise it's
Yeah,
going to
of
be really
course.
boring if
Yeah.
everything's the same.
in the end, there will be an option that you can do that, and it might actually be good. But it's like, let's give humans their jobs also, because it's fun to work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Let's see
exactly.
what happens, because it's going very fast. And
Yeah. I wonder if I would someday design something for humans. Like we're not there yet, I feel. So it still needs that
yeah,
human touch in everything.
exactly, human touch.
But it's cool to learn a bit more about how you guys as a graphic designer look at the future and how AI already supports you these days in your work.
Yeah.
Um, I was also wondering, like you guys design a lot for e-mobility companies, like that's your daily work. Are there any brands that inspire you? Like what kind of e-mobility companies do you think that are doing a proper job design-wise and that are inspirational?
Mhm. Um,
Like
yeah,
any favorite brand that you would
yeah.
like to highlight?
For example, for me, my favorite brand it's Uber, I think, or at least the one that inspires me the most.
Okay.
I think that, I mean, the reason why I like Uber is that because the brand identity is a great example of how a brand can evolve over time to adapt to the new needs and markets while still maintaining a very clean and consistency in your brand identity, and also a touch of innovation and modernity also. I mean, from a business perspective, as I said also before, I'm a huge fan of this minimalistic trend. So
Yeah.
Uber has maintained like a very minimalist approach in their brand identity. They use a very simple logo, modern typography, very clean, accessible with a very neutral color palette because they mainly use black and white. And to me, this suggests also like some professionalism and like a no crazy approach. I mean, they remain cool, I would say, but in a clean way.
Yeah.
So, and this is also, in my opinion, very solid. So this minimalist and tech-driven approach is a key factor, I think, in their success, and they still remain the same while changing and evolving to meet like a very wide range of services. That's why I like.
Okay. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Any brands that inspire you, Merel? Anything you would like to add?
Like I have two in mind. I'm not able to choose, so I think
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
like one that is a bit similar to Valentina is, I don't even know if I pronounce it right. Polestar or Polestar, I don't know, but it's a type of car that they sell cars, and they're electric.
Polestar. Yeah.
How do you say it?
Polestar.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
They're like, I think they're from Volvo, if I'm not
Yeah.
like, I think everybody has been a bit like addicted by Apple and the way they design. I kind of like it because it's clean. But also I'm from the north of Europe, so we like a lot of clean layouts. But they have like the fact that it's a very clean black and white, mostly with a lot of like a monochrome palette with a lot of full images. But they have like this touch of orange in their little titles or in their little icons that, like, first I trust them fully because it's a clean website and the photos are good quality. But then there's still this playfulness of like, oh, we have a super bright orange. And if you would have not had that, I would have not probably recognized you in this clean layout. But they have like photos with the car like super clean, but then they put like a huge golden cover on top that is blowing a bit. So the images are very cool, a bit fashion-like. So even their images itself like are very dynamic and very fun and playful. So it's a website with a lot of cars, lot of information, but they still have this touch of playfulness. So I really like it. So it's a bit similar to Uber, like they're quite clean. But another example I really liked that is, it's called Dot with 2 T's. It's like a rental bikes on the street. They're like blue and red. Like you don't see a lot of companies that have like these. There's super playful like header typography that they chose. They chose like it's almost like written. It's very like playful, a bit kids like as if somebody with a big marker wrote it. And of course, it's very B2C because you have to rent the bike on the street, but their logo is dot. They use a dot, so they're already super recognizable. The dot is written in super sans serif, clean typography. But then if you go to their titles on the website, they're super playful. So for me, it's cool that they were able to have their bike clean with their 2 colors, dot, and using the dot. But then if you go to their communications and all of their other outputs, they have like these illustrations, these little icons that are super playful. Of course, it's way less technical, of course, because you rent a bike. But I like how they found the balance of combining those 2 worlds of super clean logo and everything, and the circles clean, but with playful illustrations. Yeah, I think they did a very good job because in the end, we all know dot.
But you
I like
remember.
it too, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be my inspiration.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys. Like, it's really nice to learn a bit more about design and also the process behind it. I see the results of your work like every day, but it's nice to hear a bit more about the thinking behind the results, basically. And thanks for sharing that, and also the look into the future with AI and the design specifics for e-mobility companies. It was really nice to hear about that. For our listeners, we'll be back with more podcasts about e-mobility and marketing soon. So stay tuned and follow us on the main channels, I would say. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.